Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Orphan Last, aka Skylar Madison, and today I'm going to go ahead and create some fan art for Galaxy's Edge. Specifically, I want to redesign the Republic Destroyer. Now, just a second ago, you briefly saw an image of some cover art that had the Republic Destroyer right there. And this right here that you're seeing on the screen, or at least was on the screen, was my first attempt at modeling the Republic Destroyer with some of my own design elements in it, but still trying a little bit too hard to be loyal to that cover art. And I wound up regretting it in the long run. There are some design things that I put into it that I really am not a fan of. And, you know, I love that cover, okay? That cover art is awesome. It has Goth Solus looking epic in the foreground, dead bodies all around him. You see the entire Black Fleet. You see these raptors flying away from you. You see the Republic Destroyer, the entire Republic Fleet. And, you know, that cover art, it looks epic, but, you know, it's a big pill to swallow because, like, for that one cover, that artist, whoever it was, I forgive me, I don't know who it was, but that one artist not only had to draw something epic, but also had to come up with the designs for every ship that's in existence for Galaxy's Edge. And, you know, I like the way the Raptors look. I like most of what I see with the Black Fleet. But that Republic Destroyer, not so much. I'm not a big fan of it. But you still look at the entire composition of that cover, and you can't help it but think, wow, that is stinking cool. And so, regardless of that, I want to throw my hat in the ring towards making something cool for the Republic Destroyer. And the reason why I feel this is at least important to me is because the Republic Destroyer is the Galaxy's Edge equivalent of the Star Destroyer from Star Wars. So, you know, this time around, instead of trying to have little elements that are loyal to that cover art, I wanted to take my own personal stab. If I were to 100% start to finish create my own version of these, you know, the Galaxy's Edge Republic Destroyer, what would it look like? That's what I wanted to do inside of this video. With no restrictions whatsoever. If somebody came over to me and said, okay, you know, I have a Star Destroyer, Pimp My Ride. You remember that old TV series where, you know, it's called Pimp My Ride? People would show up with these vehicles and you know, this rapper would wind up making that car look way stinking cool and all that by the end of the episode and give it back to them. You know, that sort of thing. So that's kind of the approach that I decided to take. Some of the things that I liked about the original design was those round bulbs on the bottom of the ship, because it made it look a lot more like a naval craft. And so basically the goal that I think someone should have when designing intergalactic spaceships, you know, if the ship were to crash or it needs to land, it needs to be able to try to keep the people inside alive. But, like, you would hope if you were a passenger on that craft that it would be able to land on dry land and on water. Because, like, if you think about it, like, let's just say hypothetically most planets are kind of like Earth. Most inhabitable planets are like Earth. You know, there is a possibility that the most likely thing that they would land on is water. So why not have some design elements that are kind of like a naval craft? If it were to crash, it's likely to land on water. If it doesn't land on water, well, it's still built to be able to land or crash on the ground as safe as humanly possible, as much as a crash is safe, I guess. You know, it's these sorts of things that I've been kind of considering. Initially, I put this fin on the bottom of the ship, and I also put the bridge down there. And the more and more I thought about that, that was an idiotic idea. Because, okay, first of all, that fin on the bottom, I only put it there because of the cover art. But it doesn't make sense. That fin on the bottom, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. because like how big do your landing struts have to be in order to get it to land on the ground, and how much square footage does that that those landing struts take up on the ship that could be dispersed towards living area, that sort of thing. Why make your landing struts so stinking big that they would make a huge target that could be attacked, destroyed, whether on purpose or by accident, to where the ship, when it crashes, it doesn't even have the landing struts to land properly because they were damaged in combat. So yeah, things like that seemed really, really kind of dumb to me about the cover art and such like that. Also, and I like the cover art, but that design it wasn't. I don't feel as though it was well thought out for the Republic destroyer. Okay, so the next little bit that I don't like about my initial attempt was that, there's the bridge on the bottom. Okay, if you were to crash land, and you were the captain of the ship, that's basically just the end of your life. It's like, okay, sayonara, life, because like it's likely that the bridge is going to be one of the first things that collide with the dirt, and then the whole rest of the ship is going to wind up crushing you. So the initial thought was, well, the only reason why they put the bridge on the top of a ship is because of gravity. Well, yeah, that is the reason why. So, but the thing is since you happen to have a zero gravity environment, it doesn't mean that you just, violate these design traditions in design. You don't just abandon that just because it's a zero gravity environment, because that ship may very well make contact inside of gravity, an actual atmosphere and all that. And so because of that, the ship needs to have all of the same design traditions all around, all throughout it. So, this kind of got me to kind of also think, what are things that I don't like about the Star Wars Star Destroyer? And there's not really much that I don't like about it, because it's like, the Star Destroyer is one of the most iconic looking ships just all throughout sci-fi. I mean, it's one of the coolest looking things ever. But one of the things that I don't like is the engines. Why, of course I know the reason why, but you look at the engines on a Star Destroyer and they're just these little round pylons, these little things that are kind of just glued on there on the back of this flat surface. And that doesn't, it looks cool, don't get me wrong, it looks cool, but they were just kit bashing. They got a whole bunch of different little models, physical plastic models, and glued all these parts together and hoped to basically make something cool out of them. And ultimately, gluing on those engines there, it worked for Star Wars, but wouldn't you want those engines to be strongly built into the actual structure of the ship? And so that's something that I wanted to implement into my design. I wanted the engines to be like fully structurally built into it, and this gave it kind of this look where it has, the bottom of the ship, it has these round bulbs, which are these really, anytime you have anything round and curved and stuff like that, you have something that's really organic and interesting. And having these round engines kind of built into the top of the ship, and the top and the back, and just kind of extending out and housed into the ship. That right there, it made it so that the top of the design was every bit as organic as the bottom of the design, if that makes sense. I'm hoping I'm making sense. And so really I wanted to really make this look more interesting. Now the thing is there came a point where I was looking at Google Images, and I was trying to take little design ideas from the actual Star Destroyer, but you know, you look at a Star Destroyer and there's all these little tiny minuscule details all throughout it, and it looks so stinking cool. And yeah, that's cool and all, but you know, I did wind up spending way too much time trying to design these little thingies, and thinking, yeah, I can put this all over the ship, but you know, not only would that just take stinking forever, but there's no need for it, because like if you think about it, like a lot of those little tiny details are there not only just because it was a kit bashed project, but those little tiny details are there in order to create the illusion of just how big the Star Destroyer is. But that's not the only way to create the illusion of how big something is. I mean, that model for the Star Destroyer, it's, you know, probably about as big as, you know, if you were to hold your arms out as far out as you can, that's probably how big that actual Star Destroyer is, the model. So it is pretty big, but not nearly even remotely as big as how it appears on the screen. And so, like, who else? What other people have designed ships that look huge, but haven't necessarily put in tons and tons and tons of little tiny details that don't necessarily have to be there? And you know, I think about it, and you know, Star Trek. You know, Star Trek did it with a bunch of windows. And I think I can pull that off pretty well, actually. I could create a bunch of windows all throughout this thing. And so, you know, this opens up, like, that little realization that I had kind of opened up this opportunity to where, okay, yeah, this is going to look reminiscent of a Star Wars Star Destroyer, but it's definitely going to look like its own thing. It's going to have its own form of iconic imagery that isn't 100% just a Star Wars ripoff, if that makes sense. But yeah, here you see me spending way too much time on this little tiny detail that takes up just no space whatsoever, and yeah, eventually I just wind up deleting that. You see it right here. I look at it and delete it, and see how little, like, it took up such a little space on the composition. And in order to ornament the entire ship with these little tiny details, it would have taken way too long, and it didn't make sense. I guess if I had a whole bunch of assets to kit bash that whole thing together, I could have, but what's the point? I mean, there's you know, sometimes there's elegance and simplicity that you can pull off fairly easily, and wind up coming out with the same sort of wow factor, if that makes sense. So yeah, I don't see it as being necessary to do all of that, to have all these millions of little tiny details everywhere. Now, by the end of the video, I actually have not finished this design, and I want to take my time with this. I want to make this look really stinking cool, and basically by the time that I'm finished with this, I want to give it to Nick Cole and Jason Onspach, and hopefully maybe they like it, not just like it, but hopefully that they make it canon, I guess, if that makes sense. Maybe I'm just being pompous in hoping that, but whatever. A guy can dream, I guess. Having some of your imagery become something iconic in something awesome. Who doesn't want that, I guess? I mean, if you're an artist, of course you want your artwork to be a part of something that's going to be iconic. So yeah, I actually did show my original design of the Republic Destroyer to Nick Cole, and he actually really liked it, and we had a number of conversations about it. Well, not a number of conversations. That's an over-exaggeration, and I do apologize. We had probably about a 15 to 20 minute long conversation. Sorry about that. But anyhow, one of the things that he mentioned that he liked that I made sure to keep in this newer attempt at designing this thing was he liked that there was like this empty gap in between the top of the ship and the bottom of the ship. Like, if you've been paying attention and watching, and towards the end of the video, I'm going to have kind of a turntable animation so that you guys can see how far I am and what this thing kind of looks like. If you pay attention, there's like this empty space in between the top and bottom of the ship. And the reason for that is basically that I kind of envisioned them storing like a bunch of equipment as well as a bunch of, bots there. So when things need, repairs, when things need, maintenance, or, the ship starts to sustain damage, bots are deployed on the exterior of the ship. But they still have cover from the top and the bottom. It's only the sides of the ship that is basically open to maybe attack from a fighter or something like that. If the ship's shields go down, and so, that's kind of a cool idea to me, and I kind of discussed different things that could offer to Galaxy's Edge. For example, like if you think about it, like if you have like a bunch of turrets outside of the ship getting damaged, and these bots are in they get deployed on the exterior of the ship, and still they're able to repair the turrets from a position of relative safety, that would be kind of interesting. But more than that, if there was a breaching pod that gets shot out, lands on the Republic Destroyer, these bots can basically crawl anywhere on the exterior of the ship and potentially destroy this breaching pod before it has a chance to cut through the hull and put boots on the interior of the ship and possibly destroying the ship from the inside out. And so that's something that Nick Cole seemed to be interested in. I don't know if Jason Onspach is on board with that idea, but hey, I mean, why not? Why not introduce that idea, I guess. But just kind of talking a little bit about this portion of the ship. I spend all this time trying to get this housing that's supposed to be underneath the bridge of the ship. I spent all this time trying to get this existing thing that I've made here to work for me. And yet it never really did. It just wound up being a frustration. Every time I got something to work, some part of it just wasn't working right. And so I wound up actually just completely deleting this. And throughout, if you've been paying attention throughout the video, I actually made this thing about 5 or 6 times throughout the course of this video. But by the time that the video ends, I feel like I've come up with a basic shape that is a lot more sound than all the other versions that I came up with. And so I got this design here that just seems to work out so much better, and I'm hoping to put in a bunch of more detail onto it, something that's, I guess, more intricate and interesting. And then I spent the rest of the time that I had work on this video trying to fix topology. Now, I didn't fix all of it. Of course, this is still a work in progress. When you do see the turntable at the end of the video, you're going to notice that there are shading issues on those bottom bulbs on the ship, and that's fine. It's one thing at a time. I just need to tackle one thing at a time. And like I said, I'm taking my time with this design because I want to get it right. I want it to look cool. I want the fan base to look at this and be like, that is a Republic destroyer, and basically petition that this be the canonical version of it, I guess. Hey, a guy can dream. But anyways, so the turntable is about to come up in just a short while. Come on. Yeah. So here it is. I think it's pretty cool. Of course, you know, I didn't spend too much time trying to create a bunch of textures, but, you know, it's the basic shape. You can see that there's like this empty space in the middle there. The engines built into it look pretty cool. I like it. I think it looks cool. It has enough to it that's different from a Star Destroyer. I'm really pleased. Anyways, guys, that pretty much concludes it for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And if you guys would like to get more notifications from me, feel free to join my Discord. A link to my Discord is in the video description below. And if you'd like to support this channel, there's an image of a t-shirt in the upper right corner of the screen. It leads to my Teespring. Any support with the purchase of a t-shirt would be much appreciated. And if you've enjoyed this content and would like to see more, feel free to click on anything else that's appearing on the screen right now. Thank you very much for your time.